Yeah, my name is Alexey Medov, and I'm a senior editor. Uh, well, yes, I'm going to share some of my experience working during these about 10 years, and I'm gonna tell you about some small tricks maybe that will help you not to not to make very stupid mistakes, which can cost you much after you release your game. Well, probably I think you know what localization is because you are here, so you know what is localization. But still, I want to remind you some basic terms. So, what is localization? Uh, Basically, it is translation, of course, but the main point that localization is more than translation. Uh, First of all, and that's the most important thing, that localization is adaptation. Adaptation it means cultural adaptation. It means adaptation to audience you translate your game for. Uh, Also, localization includes voiceover and many services, but they are out of scope of today's topic. Okay, why we localize games? We localize games just to sell it on other markets. So basically, localization is simple way to sell your game globally. So I think it's quite obvious. I don't think that you need to see this simple slide. A little bit of linguistic rocket science 101. Sorry to tell you this, but I need to just to clear out some points that shows that show that localization is pretty complicated thing. Why do we usually fail while localizing into different languages? Because languages are very, very different. It's these terms from linguistics show that all languages fall into several groups. The biggest, the largest of them are isolating languages. What is isolating languages? For example, Chinese and Vietnamese. Maybe some of you know Chinese, speak Chinese. No, no one. Well, the main point of these languages that in these languages words are not altered, so they have words by words without any forms. So the grammatical role is in word order. So, and it's very difficult to distinguish words that have some meaning or some word that just serves you as grammatical stuff. Well, for us, it's the easiest group because the main problem is only context. The text is very short. No problems. You can put placeholders, you can put variables in your text, and it's okay. The main point is just to think of interface, because with very short words it can be somehow strange. The second group is agglutinative languages. Most European languages somehow fall in this group. Well, what can you say about them? They have complex system for word formation and alternate affixes. So what can be wrong here? Many words and sentences. Well, basically, if you compare Russian to English, for example, which is my main language pair, Russian text will have less words, but they will be longer. They will be longer because Russian fall into inflected group. What are they? They are the most difficult. In the inflected group you can find Russian, Serbian, Baltic languages, Slavic Baltic languages, and what the case with them? They have polyfunctional grammatical morphemes. What does it mean? They have many word forms. So it is very difficult for us to put placeholders, because placeholder means that this specific tag will be replaced with a word, and it means that the form will be single. It is very difficult to make up and put the correct form of the word instead of placeholder. Okay, let's talk about tags. I think it's the next slide. Oh yeah, you can see that character limits for different languages are totally different. Okay, what about tags? When designing a computer game and extracting text from your game into Blockit, you probably will use some kind of tags. You can see some pieces of advice from the localizer, what tags to use and how to use these tags. If it is possible while developing a game and extracting text from your game, try to make tags clear. Because if you put, I don't know, $1 tag, we will have to guess what does it mean, and it can be very tricky because not always we have a context for the sentence, and we can guess it wrong. Please don't use the same tag multiple times in one sentence. So sell something for something, it sounds weird. Please use unique delimiters. Why do we ask to use unique delimiters? While translating text, we use computer-assisted translation tools. What does it mean? That means that we extract tags with the help of these programs, and unique delimiters help us to extract them, so the program won't mix the ordinary words or maybe parts of the sentence with tags. So it will help us to do it right. Please don't make a strict order for the tags. Why? Because of structure of the languages. In different languages, we have different rules for word order. So, for example, once we had a project for translation from Korean into Russian. And it was kind of tricky because the publisher divided sentences into different parts, sliced it. And the tricky point was that in Korean they have strict word order, and they have verbs in the last part of the sentence. So when we have done everything, it appeared that all our characters spoke like Master Yoda. It was very funny, but that's not always appropriate. That's not what you want to make every time. So if you put tag in its place, please keep in mind that in other languages the word order will be different, so the tags will be mixed up, everything. So that's the last point. Don't split sentences and omit tags. Why I say omit tags? If you try to maybe save some money or save some time, you can split your sentence just to leave the point with a number and with a pictogram, just to add it later. Please don't do this, because if you are trying to put something or extract something from the translated text, if you don't know the language, you will probably make a mistake. So just let us to do it. Well, it's an old picture, but it's still hot topic. In different cultures, we have censorship, cultural appropriation. So you may not be aware of all of them. So let us do it. Okay, one good point to work with localizers. Please make a statement of work. If you want us to meet your expectations, please be clear. What do you want? So, functional style. We need to know how to speak with the player. Register for speech. In English, it doesn't mean anything. So you and obsolete, thee, thou, not used anymore. But in different languages, we have different registers. Please tell us your target audience. Please tell us technical limitations for your texts, because they can be very many forbidden characters or string limits. If you have a glossary, please give it to us. If you are localizing into platforms like PlayStation or Xbox, please tell us. They have their own glossaries. LockKit. What do you need to add to LockKit to make it clear and appropriate for us? Please put string ID. It will give additional context. Please add a column with comments, because it will add context. It will identify and point on the speaker in dialogues. Add pictures for anything. If you're listing your items, please give us pics. It will help us to translate correctly. And any other stuff. Well, we always want to know character limits in order just to avoid truncations or any other cosmetic defects. And please do not sort or filter the LockKit. It should be in chronological and logical order. And the last thing is, please don't put text into images. It's very difficult to extract them and then upload them. It's a process that possibly could lead to a mistake. Very important advice. After you do the translation and localization and you upload all your text in the game, you should give us a build to make linguistic and cosmetic testing. Some of the mistakes can be found only on testing stage. So it's very important, and it will help to avoid some negative ratings, because we can find our mistakes on the stage of testing, and no player could rate your game, underestimate your game because of any localization mistake. Thanks for attention. I think I'm done here, and I'm happy to answer your questions.
At the beginning of your presentation, you talked about cultural localization.
Yes.
Okay, so can you tell us more about that? How do you adapt a text in English, I guess, to the culture of Korea, Japan, Vietnam, or some Arabic countries, or India?
Yes. It's very important point. Thanks for your question. Well, we do our translations by native speakers, and preferably by native speakers who live in the country where you want to localize your game in. So there are some cultural points that you may not be aware of. So, for example, I don't know, if you have a game and you have a simple item, a green hat. If you localize your game into Chinese, any Chinese native speaker living in China will say you that it's totally inappropriate for China, because green hat means that you're a husband of a prostitute, and that's not you want to see in your game. So cultural adaptation means that some points can be very subtle or tricky for other cultures. So you should be aware of them. And as we use native speakers, we are aware of them. So that's the point.
Hi.
Hello.
In my company, we also do social casino games, and we approach this problem that one of the translating companies said that their translators refused to translate our text into Hebrew and Arabic languages because of their religion, because they said that they won't translate any gambling texts. Did you approach this problem in your company, for example?
Well, in our company, we have translated poker and gambling games into Arabic. The point is, if you translate gambling games for Arabic-speaking people, not necessarily they live in Arabic countries where the gambling is banned, actually. So maybe you want to translate your game into Arabic or Hebrew, and the point is that we try, and basically we can find translators who will translate your game into these languages. That's it.
What was the most disastrous localization issue you had on testing because of, I don't know, localization issues with the developer or something?
Disastrous. I'm not sure about disastrous, but we had very interesting point when our client refused to have testing, free testing, by the way. And they released their game. We localized it into Russian, and in our company we used to track the game's life. We want to see reviews by ourselves. So I downloaded this game, and I wanted to see if there are any issues with the localization, and I found review, oh, localization is awful, and I thought, why? It's fine. I've done it. I know it's okay. So I downloaded the game, and I have found that the font was wrong. So they have 2 or 3 Cyrillic characters missing. So the whole text was a mess, and it was very small error on the stage of missing testing. So we could find this error from the first minute of testing, but they released the game with the wrong font, with missing characters, and got low reviews, low ratings. So it's very important to make localization and cosmetic testing. So that's one case maybe from localization.
Many languages have different varieties, like English, there are 4 of them, or French, there are 2 of them. Do you have translators for both or any variety of the language that you're translating into?
Well, we are translating in nearly 40 language pairs. So the point is, actually, the first language you want to localize your game into is English, because in pairs with English, it's possible to find good, qualified translators that specialize in gaming. Actually, not many peoples and companies want to distinguish their English more into than British and American, because well, if you live in Australia, you can easily play the game on British English or American English, and you will understand everything. So the other point, that if you have Portuguese, you have Portuguese for Portugal and Portuguese for Brazil. That's 2 languages. But by the way, we had translated, but not translated, altered French for Canada, for example, or Spanish for Mexico. So they have slight differences, but yes, we have guys who can do it.
And thank you, Alexey, for this talk.
Thank you.
Let's give a round of applause.